Let's take a closer look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron Imperial Shuttle by Jazware.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron Imperial Shuttle by Jazware. As well as being fans of the Imperial Shuttle, this is an exciting arrival for us as we are big collectors of the Micro Galaxy Squadron line, and this is our very first from the Series 4. We were able to see some of these ships unveiled at Star Wars Celebration in London earlier this year, and some of the line has been a little bit slow to get to us here in New Zealand. We got Series 1 fairly promptly, Series 2 was a little bit later, then we've been waiting and waiting for Series 3, and then lo and behold, something from Series 4 has been available locally. This one hit from a single retailer in very limited numbers and sold out within minutes once fans realized it was available locally, so we're very happy to have secured one for our collection. We're still waiting for the bulk of Series 3 to show up here locally, but nevertheless, super excited that one of our highlights from the announced Series 4 has arrived. So before I get stuck in and open it up, I'm just going to take a closer look at this packaging. So of course this is from Return of the Jedi, and we can see that the box has a foil Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary sticker, which I think is really interesting because Hasbro generally puts this as a printed component on a cardboard backing, but here it is a foil sticker. But we do know that Jazware often uses foil stickers for both their Chase Rare variants and for that launch edition where we had those gold foil stickers. We can see we have a little pack here with the 3 micro figures here. We have Emperor Palpatine, and it says Imperial Royal Guards, plural, because obviously there are 2 of them. We have a yellow stripe here for Series 4, and that silver foil stripe across the bottom that says Imperial Shuttle, and this one is number 0088. You can see that there on the corner. On the side, we have some fantastic art of the Imperial Shuttle with a few different TIE fighters. We have the Death Star 2 in the background because, of course, this is from Return of the Jedi. On the back, we can see some of the features of this particular vehicle. We have the collectible blueprint. If you don't really keep your packaging, you can cut this one out and keep as a little trading card. And we can see some of the interesting features of this particular vehicle. We can see that the wings move through a motion of 135-degree arc. It says that it can sit up to 6 figures. I'm going to be testing to see how well figures sit in it. Some ships fit their figures better than others. We can see that there is a ramp under the nose of the ship. It looks like in the back there is a space. It says sits up to 7 figures. That looks like they're sort of sitting in a little bit of an alcove. I'm very curious to see how well I'll be able to fit figures in this section. There are some turrets that have rotational movement here as well. We have landing gear, so I'm going to be checking out all those moving parts as well. And then we can see some of the other vehicles from this Series 4 that I'm super excited about. We can see the Mandalorians in one starfighter there. We've got a TIE bomber, a Y-wing, and we've got another TIE fighter, an A-wing, and a droid fighter. So these are quite varied compared to the ones from the earlier waves. I'm really hoping these show up for us locally very soon. They're such a fantastic line of vehicles. On the side, we can see instructions pointing out that the wings and that top fin are having to be basically assembled. I had some experience with that with the Republic gunship, so let's hope that this goes a little bit more smoother. So yeah, very exciting, lots of detail, lots of features. I can't wait to get this all unpacked, so let's get stuck in and get it out so we can take a closer look. So I have my scissors here ready to cut through some sellotape and open up this box, but just looking at the internal packaging, I just noticed that the internal plastic tray that houses the vehicle has got quite a crack in it in this component, despite the fact that this external window doesn't seem to bear any damage. So I don't think this has happened during shipping. It just looks like perhaps the ship has, I don't know, put some pressure there, or it's happened when it was being put into the box. So hopefully I don't see any particular damage to the side of the vehicle. So I think that's just a just an element of the internal packaging being a little bit fragile. So here's hoping perhaps that makes it a little easier to get the ship out. So let's get stuck in and cut this tape so we can get that inner tray out and pop that ship out. Sometimes these inner trays are quite awkward to get the ships out. They're really in there. So here's hoping this one is not going to be too much of a wrestling match to get it out. I can see there is some rubber bands in there that I'm going to have to take out to get this out. Let's get this out. Okay, we've got 2 trays in here. Okay, so we've got this lower tray that houses that top fin and the wings. I'm going to pop this over here. Just going to slide this cardboard back in so I can pop this out of the way. Never mind. We can see that the back art has a large image of the second Death Star with a Star Destroyer off there to the side. Very, very cool. I keep my packaging because I think these artworks are quite cool. Some of them have some really cool battle scene artwork. This one is just, it's almost serene just with that Death Star there. So I'm just going to pop that off to the side. So we have the ship here with our little figures there. Very, very cool. And I'm just going to see how easily these wings pop out. Hoping these won't be too tricky. Got one. And the second one. And this top fin. That one popped out nicely there. Now we're on to the ship itself. I'm just going to snip these rubber bands holding over the cockpit. There we go. So yes, this is very cracked. It's completely come away there. So let's see if that helps me get this out. Nice and easy. Cool. So now that I've got all of the parts out, I'm just going to get some of this clutter out of the way and we'll take a closer look. So now I have the shuttle out and I've got all these components. There's a little handy reference guide here on the side so that you don't accidentally connect them on the wrong side. So let's get the wings and that top fin in place. A little bit nervous about this. I always kind of wish that these things would come fully assembled, but I know for packaging reasons, some of these larger ships have a few components you've got to click into place. We can see the part where that top fin's going to click on. So I'm going to start with that one first. Watching by the instruction picture there, we can see that these dark sections here are towards the back. So I'm hoping that this will just click into place. Let's have a go. How far down is that going to seat in? Is there going to be a tight click? So just going to sort of bed down. Didn't click, but that feels like it's in the right place. I think I can kind of rock it backwards and forwards just a tiny bit, but it feels like it won't go down any further than that. So, yep, I guess that's in. Didn't feel like I was going to break anything there. That's always good. So now I've got the wings to attach. So in this picture, they kind of have them pointed down. So I might do that to make sure I'm putting them on the right side. These feel... They've got quite a click to them, but they feel like they move quite well. So I'm going to just pop that down. So we've got this section pointing down. Going to grab the wing for this side with that slanted edge facing towards the front. So let's see how tricky this is going to be to connect it. Hopefully this is just going to click in. Okay, there was some good snaps in there. That felt like that clicked in quite nicely. We can see that's looking pretty cool. Okay, now this side. Oh, there. Okay, that's kind of cool. I know we can see that. The wings are connected. That's kind of fun. Okay, so now I've got the other side. I'm going to just move that out just a little bit so I can get into this one. I'm going to connect this in here. Okay, that one. Okay. Similar kind of clicking sounds. It feels fairly sturdy. I've got a little bit of a wobble on this side. Let's see. I don't know if I can sort of see the connection points through here. Just going to see if I can maybe get a little bit of a tighter meet this line here. It was nice and tight along this line here. There's a little bit more of a gap on this side, but I don't know if I really trust to pull this out or click it in. It's a little bit interesting. I don't know if I can wriggle this out. I always take a little bit of time after to, you know, make sure that everything's bedded down. I'm just going to see if I can get this to maybe click in a little bit better, or whether that's just an element of this particular figure. Let's see if I can get this in so that that line looks a little bit more better and seated in there. Okay. Little bit of adjusting and I got a much tighter line there, so that wasn't too hard to take it out and have a second go. So if you find that yours is like mine and it just doesn't look quite tight enough, you can reasonably take those out and get that into place. So there we go, we've got it all assembled, looking really cool. I'm just going to take a closer look at some of those moving parts now. So as I discovered when I was putting it together, the wings are kind of connected with each other. So they want to kind of move at the same time. There's a really interesting loud click. We can see this thing is almost too big. That is really, really big and quite high if you have it fully in the sort of a flight mode there. That's really quite cool. Again, I've mentioned in some of my other videos, it'd be fun to have some stands in the future, but that looks pretty cool. So if I push one wing up, the other one comes up. That's fun. Of course, the top fin's not really going to move. They're just a little bit independent. I can kind of see it every now and again. You give it a nudge, I can fold the wings all the way up till they sort of touch like that. But I think it looks a little bit better like that. Let's take a look at the landing gear. We can see we've got these sort of squares here. Just going to take a look and see how hard these are to go. Okay, you just kind of get your finger in there and pop that one out. Should be the same on the other side. A little bit stiff, but not too tricky. Bit of a click there. So let's take a look. And I feel like there's probably a landing gear or something at the front, is there? Or is it just the actual ramp, perhaps? Take a look at that ramp. Okay, ramp clicks down to about there. Doesn't really want to, I don't feel like I want to, that feels very tight. I'm worried about snapping it. I feel like with the feet fully extended, the ramp does hit the desk, so I don't think it's really designed to go that much lower. It looks really low. I don't think I could make my figures walk up that ramp. If you can kind of see the figures and the height of that ramp, it doesn't look like they would get in there very well. But with the landing gear fully extended, that's kind of where this shuttle wants to go. I guess I kind of expected it to be a little bit higher, but this feels very tight. I feel like something's going to break if I pull on this. There is a button here, and on the back it looks like perhaps it helps you. It kind of just, when I click it, the ramp closes. So it kind of, if you can see, it closes, which is an interesting mechanism. I haven't really found that on many of the other Jazware ships. Most of the time, everything is just manual. You just pull things out yourself and then snap them back into place. So I guess this looks pretty good with its landing gear and ramp down, like it is just landed. You can adjust the wings a little bit to get a good shape there. All in all, pretty cool. Some of the other moving components, if I just pop that button, get that ramp back up. We've got some turrets here on the side. Let's see how easily they rotate. Okay, a little bit stiff, but I can move them reasonably well. They don't have like a clicking point. You can just kind of push them around. Same again on this side. I can move them reasonably well. Not too interesting. You don't really see the Imperial shuttles engaging in starfighter combat. These ones are fixed. They don't move. They feel pretty solid. They feel very much attached to the ship. Those ones don't rotate. On the back here, we have a small turret, which I can, very stiffly shift it to that side and push it to that side. Not really going to see that too much, but that feature is there. Okay, so the other things that we're going to have to check out are how we get figures in and out. So of course, the first thing is the cockpit. I'm going to take a look at that. So we've got this big clear window. We can see how well we can see through that. That's pretty clear, just a slight tint. So I think this is going to be one of those ones where if you like to see figures in the cockpit, you're probably going to want to put them in there because you can very clearly see inside. So I know it's all painted in black in there, but to my eyes, I can see the 6 seats that were mentioned on the packaging. So this doesn't come with 6 figures, but I guess if you want to perhaps display this as, say, Shuttle Tidarium full with Rebel heroes, we could put other characters in there, or if you've got other Imperials, this should be able to fit more in there. So I'm going to have to test that one out. There's not too much in the way of painting. The external walls look like they are a darker grey gunmetal, and the rest of it is black. I don't see any weathering or any other painted details in there. It's all very dark. Hopefully the camera is picking up on the detail in there. So that's that component. It just kind of clicks. A little bit of a loud snap in there. So let's take a closer look on the back of the box. It looks like there is a section to put 7 figures in the back section. So this is going to be interesting. I think I just get my finger under this part here. This is, that's a bit stiff. Okay, I might have to get that out of the way. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, whoa, okay. Wow, there's a lot of space in here. Okay, I can see, yeah, we've got three seats here with those little pegs that kind of hold them in place. I can see the same across there. And we've got a little Emperor's sort of throne in here as well with some clips in the front to keep him in place. I think that is really quite cool. We've got some silver details here and a little bit of a sort of an engine bay here, which is kind of fun. I think this is kind of fun. I wasn't sure how well we'd be able to see in here with this large fin in here. We've even got a little bit of a hallway here. If I turn it around, you can kind of see we've got these Imperial doors and a doorway here. So you could put a figure in the hallway there. It doesn't go all the way through to the cockpit. This wall is solid. There's no door that I can open, but I think this is fun. It looks like the doors are halfway open. I like that. And we can see lots of space in there. Personally, I don't tend to display my Micro Galaxy Squadron ships with the sort of components off, like Millennium Falcon or Marauder Shuttle. I prefer to have them all enclosed, but these are intended for 8 and up. So if children are using these for reenacting scenes, it is a fun aspect of these vehicles that we can open them up and put figures in there. I think that's fun. Kind of reminds me of those incredible cross-section books where you can sort of see the inside of the Star Wars ships. So very cool. I'm going to see how easy it is to snap this part. So just taking a closer look while I've got it in my hands. This is not a window. This has a very subtle sort of black texture there. We've got good wash. I see a little bit of a wash on the underside, a little bit here and a little bit here, but this section actually seems quite clean, and you can see some of the detail there on the underside. And just before I close it up, I don't see a wash on the inside, which makes sense. You wouldn't really have a grime in a clean, Imperial throne room, as it were, with the Emperor's throne chair right there. So it makes sense. No wash on the inside, but it is on the external surfaces of this component. Let's see how tricky this is to get this back in place. I'm hoping it will just kind of sit back down, perhaps. A little bit of a loud snap. Is it bedded down on the other side? A little bit tricky on this side. let's see. I'm going to have to wriggle that one. It's a little bit harder with the fin in place now. I wonder if I can get that. Ah, there we go. Okay, so I just had to kind of flick that. It's not something I'm going to be doing often, but just good to know how I can get that in. So I feel like because there's more of a seam along this edge than on this side, even though we've got a little bit of a connection seam here. This will be interesting and up to individual collectors which side you feel is more of the hero side. Because this one sort of has that play aspect cockpit on this side, you might feel like this is the side is intended to be displayed facing forward, where they'll just have it facing directly front forward. I think it's interesting that this cockpit has these little clips here that are from the same plastic as the window. You can kind of see the clips there. Because they kind of, this is part of the removable segment, so it kind of I kind of have to push that against that to clip that shut. It's a little bit of a sort of an anxious making sound, and there is a little bit of a gap there, but I don't want to push any harder on that. I feel like I might break something, and it looks reasonably closed. So now if I put the wings up, that all looks pretty cool. I just got to pop this out. There we go. So that's the Imperial Shuttle. Lots of fun features, to be honest. I'm probably going to have it displayed like this on my shelf. I think it looks super cool when you have those wings down and have it in flight mode, but without a stand, that's not going to be how I have it on my shelf. Overall, the paint on this is pretty good. It's a pretty uniform grey, but we can see that we've got some good weathering here. We've got a little bit of sort of accenting around these raised panels here. Not too heavy. We've got some sections where you can see it has pulled a little, but it still looks pretty believable, not too heavy-handed. I notice on this section we have got a little bit, you can just kind of make out the difference here. There is a little bit of slightly heavier weathering on this top surface than around here on the wings. We can see a little bit of pooling here, but again, it kind of feels like it's believable weathering. It's not too heavy. We've got a little bit more of a wash down this front panel. On the other side, again, a bit more of a wash down here. Less pooling here. We've got a little bit here. We've got a little bit over here with these circles. But overall, nothing that looks like obvious thumbprints or something that's really sort of grabbing my eye, making me think, oh, that looks a bit splotchy. If I close those up, we can look at the outside. It looks like they've tried to sort of apply it on the wings in a sort of up and down manner, which looks really good. On the back, slightly less weathering here around the engines at the back. We've got some nice blue for the engines, which I think is, it's hard to tell whether that's painted or blue plastic. My brain wants to say it looks perhaps painted. There's just a very subtle echo of blue on that side in there. So I think perhaps that was painted. It's hard to say. It looks very good and clean and tidy though. Not messy at all. On the underside, we have some very subtle weathering again, nothing too heavy. We've got lots of little greeblies and sculpted details. I like the attention to detail when you pop out the landing gear. We can see sort of struts, feet. We've got little inner bits in there. You can see all that tiny detail there. Absolutely fantastic. I think it's fun. On the ramp, we have the item assortment number for this particular ship printed there. And of course, we've got the copyright information, 2023 Jazwares made in China. Yeah, all very, very cool. Lots of great detail. This fine detail on the underside of the cockpit there, that is just really fun to see. Such tiny detail there. Really cool. Okay, that is the Imperial Shuttle. Just going to pop that one there to the side. Now let's take the figures out so we can see these tiny little figures. Pretty good paint job, as you can imagine. This is going to be made out of a red plastic, so we just have a tiny bit of black for the visor of the Imperial Guards and some silver for their pikes. For Palpatine, I'm pretty sure he is made out of black plastic with a tiny little bit of silver for his cloak clasp. and some Sithly skin color for his face and hands. Very, very cool. These are such tiny figures, but I do think they really do add something to the vehicles. So let's pop these guys out. I like keeping these. They're very good for storing my figures in if I'm not putting them in here, or that I don't lose them. So here we have Palpatine himself in his tiny little evil form. Pretty good sculpting. We can see the hang of his sleeves there. Very cool. Like other characters, he is articulated at the shoulders so he can put his hands out, like he is executing Force Lightning there. I think that that's kind of fun. And he is articulated at the waist so we can sit him down. He is sculpted with his skirt, which does look a little bit funny. I always think of him as sitting on his throne with his knees bent. These ones don't have articulation at the knees, so he does look a little bit odd in a seated position. But there we go. It's just a solid base. They don't really have individual legs underneath his robe. It is all just solid. So that is Palpatine in a slightly odd position there. And the same is going to be true for the Royal Guards. I'm kind of curious what they look like when they put their hands up. I don't think you'd really be piloting a ship with your force pike in your hand like that. But if we want to pose them in front of the ship, these are just too small to have those as a removable accessory. So they look a little bit funny when you put their hands up, but that's okay. And then we have the articulation at the waist. Again, they don't have individual legs. It is all just one solid block of plastic with the little imprint of boots there on the base. So they're ready to fly this shuttle. Got a little bit of a protrusion here. I'm hoping that that won't impact on their ability to sit on a seat with this sticking out the back. That's going to be interesting. It almost looks like they have applied paint to the gloves. There's just something about the gloves that look just a subtle bit like more of a matte finish compared to the red gloss of the plastic here, which I think is interesting. I don't know why they would necessarily have painted that detail. Again, this guy is pretty much exactly the same. Same articulation, same paint job. He even has that red paint on his gloves as well. Really tiny to see detail. I know it's probably not showing up very well on camera. I do have to say I'm quite impressed with how clean the paint job is for their visors and their pikes that they are holding there. These are such tiny figures. I'm very impressed with the way that Jazwares can paint them so well. So first off, let's see how well we can get them sitting in this cockpit. This is interesting. I like that the cockpit opens up quite widely so we can see inside. This is the tricky part, trying to see how well I can get these figures to sit in here. So I'm hoping the front pilot ones don't have clips. The ones in the background have the clips, and that's where it really does take a couple of hands to get them in. I'm going to see how well I can get these guys perhaps sitting in the cockpit section. This is where it gets a little interesting. There's a little bit of a lip. I'm not sure that their wide skirts want to sit in. I'm kind of struggling to get the wide part of their skirt under. It's really hard to show. There's a little bit of a lip in here, and I don't think their skirts can actually fit underneath it. It's just completely stopping me from doing that. So I wonder how well they will go in the section with the clips. I'm trying to do this one-handed, so just bear with me. This might take a moment of putting this down and trying to wrestle with it with two hands. Trying to see if I can do this with one hand. Okay, I'm going to have to put this down for a minute and see if I can pose the figures in the cockpit. So I'm just going to take a quick break and see if I can get them in there with those pegs. It is very tricky, but with a little bit of brute force, I have to say, you can actually get the Imperial Royal Guards sitting there in the cockpit. I was not able to get them in the front pilot seats, but they do fit in there. I was not even really going to attempt those back seats. They kind of need to sit slightly reclined, as you can kind of see from the side. The pikes don't look too odd. They look like they're just kind of holding them across their shoulders. They look like they're kind of sitting reclined for a cruise in the Imperial Shuttle. But yes, so they do fit. I almost kind of wish I had some spare Imperial pilots to put here in the front. But if I close the front cockpit with those clicks, you can see the red through the front there. So yes, a little bit fiddly. Perhaps the use of tweezers might help you. I found that you had to actually be sort of a little bit brave and just actually really push them. The clips have a little bit of a flex in them. If I show around the ones that sort of clip around those lower halves, they have a little bit of flex, but you kind of really do have to push to get them to snap through. Perhaps if they were made of slightly softer plastic, it would be a little bit easier. Perhaps if you have small, nimble fingers, you will have a little bit better luck. But yes, they do go in there. So I'm going to get these guys out and let's test to see how well I can get them in that back sort of passenger section. I am happy to say that I can get the figures into the back passenger section, especially Emperor Palpatine on his throne chair in here. I think he looks quite cool. Obviously his knees don't bend, but I don't think it looks too bad. I found the best way to put him in was to put him into a seating position, tip him to his side so that I could get his skirt section into that clip, and then sit him upright, sort of turning him to the side, and then we get him into his spot, and he fits really quite well in there. I was also able to get the Royal Guard into one of the chairs here. I don't know that I'd necessarily be able to get one sitting over here. I think I would have to remove this top fin, but you certainly do have that option. If you want to display some figures in here, you can take this off, or perhaps put the figures in there before assembling this top fin so that they fit in there. It's just a little bit of a hidden area. It's hard for my adult hands to kind of get in there, but I think that looks really quite cool. And of course, if I get my Royal Guard in a standing position, I can sort of position him standing up in this section alongside the others. Of course, if I'm holding it, he's going to tip over, so I'll just take him out. But yeah, you can certainly have them standing in this area because we've got this good spot here. We've also got the sort of hallway corridor here with the open door, so you can pose a few figures in there. I think that that is a really fun feature, especially if you like to have your vehicles displayed with some of the panels removed to show the interior sections. Certainly lots of space there to put some figures. This one holds a lot. Theoretically, you can fit 6 inside the cockpit and 7 in this passenger section. That is a lot of figures. It's a little shame that these vehicles don't come with that many figures, so you can just fill all the seats. But if you like to play, I know that children will probably utilize figures from across a variety of sets that they have in their collection, and they can put whoever they want in these shuttles for all sorts of galactic adventures. I think that that is really quite fun. So there we have it, the Imperial Shuttle from Series 4 of the Micro Galaxy Squadron line. I'm just going to leave these guys in here. I'm just going to see if I can pop all the panels back on. Getting the hang of it a little bit. Certainly with a little bit of practice, everything clicks together a little bit more easily. Close this one. There we go. I'll get that ramp clicked down. Put the wings up. And then we can have the shuttle on display with a little Royal Guard there. I think this is absolutely fabulous. It is such an iconic Star Wars ship that is not available in very many formats. You know, it tends to be very, very big at action figure scale. I don't think we would ever see a Black Series scale one of these, certainly not for 12-inch figures. I think it is really cool. Generally, we have things like Hot Wheels and titanium figures, which are very small. This one is such a fabulous size. It's not too big for a bookshelf, but I think it is really quite fun. You've got all those iconic details. So I'm just going to pop this little guy over here because I just wanted to take a moment and compare it to what felt like a similar ship This is the Havoc Squad Marauder Shuttle from the Bad Batch, which always gave me very Imperial Shuttle vibes from it. But you can see just the difference in the height and scale of these two ships. And I will post up a comparison photo so you can see some of the details a little bit more closer. But you can see just how much taller this one is compared to this one. This one has a very low central fin compared to this top one, which is almost out of frame here, and certainly the wings themselves, because this shuttle comes packaged in the Micro Galaxy Squadron line with the wings attached. You don't need to assemble it. This one, we did need to put those extra bits on there to fully assemble it, and I think it's really interesting just seeing them side by side, just how different in scale and size they look. You kind of forget, because I always think of this one as, you know, this is the ship that the Bad Batch essentially live on for a lot of the show. We fit a lot of people in it. I did struggle to fit the Bad Batch characters inside the passenger section of this ship, particularly the Wrecker figure, which is a little bit bigger than a standard sized little minifigure from this line. I did like that this one has some good space and I can put the figures in there if I want to display it open. So I think that is really quite fun to see those two side by side. So I am so excited that I was able to find this one locally. We knew that if we were not able to find it ourselves, we were going to have to import it from overseas. Always good when you can find it at your local store. So I'm so excited. It looks great. That broken packaging plastic didn't affect the final product. It arrived, it wasn't broken. I was able to get the wings together looking nice and even and straight. Very nice. Good weathering. I was able to get the figures in. I think it's fantastic. Really happy with this one for my Micro Galaxy Squadron collection. Let me know what you think about this Imperial Shuttle in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you in the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.